Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Our Perspective. It's your host here, Mariah. Let's take a moment for the discipline that we have had over the last month or so. Let's give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Love that. I want to send a shout out to the listeners who have been listening via Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We hear you, we see you, and we love you. I know sometimes that I forget because I'm looking into a camera. I'm only talking to YouTubers, but we're on multiple platforms and we gotta make space for that. Okay? Okay. Just a fun fact, y'all. Look at my hair. Just a fun fact. I recorded at least 10 minutes into this episode to only realize it was on slow mode. How that gonna work? How is that gonna work? But we're here. We're just gonna, do it again. So as you can see from the title of this episode, we are going to be talking about the holiday season. Thanksgiving has passed, Christmas is coming up, and so is the New Year. And the New Year is like not even across the street anymore. It's the next door over. Like, slow down. Slow down. But I want to make space for those who have been experiencing the holidays a little bit different this year, or their holidays typically look different around this time of year, and really hold space for those people. And I know that every time I come on this episode, I say take care of yourself and self-care is so important. And you hear me babble about that. But the more I say it, don't you think it's important? Because you're the only one in your body. And who's going to take care of it? Who's going to make sure you're good? I'm waiting. Okay. All right. So we will be talking about some things you can do, what ways you can kind of reframe your mind, take care of yourself, and just hold yourself grace during this season. And one of those things look like being in touch with your family. And when I say that, you think of your typical nuclear family. Your family is whoever you choose to be. Your family. And that looks different for everybody. And it's important to make space for that. Because somebody's family can consist of their sister and cousin, or their mother and uncle, or their mother and grandmother, and that be it. And that's okay. Or maybe a best friend and a cousin. However you want to put it. But the main purpose of me mentioning that is that family doesn't always consist of blood. And I know we typically hear that in conversations frequently, especially around this time, but it's so important to recognize that, like, your family doesn't have to look like a mother and a father and 2 siblings and a dog and a white picket fence. Like, that's not realistic. It's not realistic. And the people in your life that you consider family are the people who value their position in your life. The people who you consider family are people who value their position in your life. And I know I've mentioned this a couple episodes ago, or maybe the episode before this, where if I have a aunt or an uncle who doesn't really value their position in my life, they don't really talk with me, or when we talk it's disrespectful, or they treat me some kind of way, they're not really upholding their title in my life, right? So I may not consider one of them somebody I would really necessarily call family. I mean, they're family, but your chosen family is really your family, your close-knit people, the people you can go to, the people you can talk to. And that looks very different for everybody. And I think more and more, as we're getting older, especially those who are in our 20s, we are seeing a lot of death. To put it point blank, like blunt, we are. And we see this almost every day via social media, within our own circles, within our own families, within our own towns, within our own cities. And that's a lot. That is a lot to even see, to take in, and it has changed the dynamic of the way we celebrate the holidays, or the way we choose to even exist during this time. Like, and it's important to acknowledge that. Very important to acknowledge that. And the people that you call your family, there's beauty in that. Like I just said, your family doesn't have to consist of your parents and 2 siblings and a dog and a white picket fence. The people you choose to be your family is your family, and there's beauty within that. Okay? So, another thing I want to point out is, don't let social media and the visuals of what you see that holidays are supposed to look like fool you, number one, and get you in your feelings. And I know that we had these conversations, and people say that in conversation all the time, but this is the truth. Like, you can see influencers, you can see people on social media living their best life with their family, having a 2-parent household, or having the best relationship with their mother and the best relationship with their father, but there's really skeletons in their closet too, and we're only seeing what is meant to be seen. So really take that into account and think about that as a way to like reframe your thought process. We don't have to compare ourselves to people who are perceived to have that loving and supportive environment. It may be that, but there's also other things. So comparison is the thief of joy. I don't know how many times we can say that you and I both heard that saying. So the more we compare ourselves to people, the more we don't find joy in what we already have and what is in our 4 walls. What is within our space? What kind of love is it within our space? So definitely don't let yourself be a victim to that, to comparing yourself. Be grateful for what you have, because although these seasons may look different, we still have life, and that's important. The whole reason why I wanted to make space for people who are in this situation, and like myself too, is because sometimes we need that reminder that we are loved and we are cared for. I love you, God loves you, OP loves you, our listeners love you. And if you ever need any resources, you to listen, someone to talk, I am all ears. I am all ears. You can follow me on my Instagram. You can follow the OP Instagram, OP Facebook. We are all ears because we see you. We see you. And definitely, I know during this time it can feel a bit lonely. It can feel a bit draining and dark. But use this time to take care of you and whatever that looks like. Please. Please. And don't take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, honey. Don't. Because a transparent moment for me that I'm going to share with you guys, this is not the first holiday that I have experienced by myself. And don't get me wrong, it's been hard, but each time has gotten easier because you don't start from scratch, you start from experience. And you can either choose to sulk and have those thoughts of why me, I'm not loved, I'm not this, I'm not that, or you can reframe that. I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to go do this and go do this, and it's another day for me. Like, I'm going to give myself that love because now I know my position and I know other people's position. So it's not going to faze me as much. Maybe I might draw some boundaries with social media during this time, but I know within myself I'm doing the right thing for me because I have created a safe environment for myself. And I can ebb and flow in that and how I want to. And there's beauty in that. Because there have been times before where I was not able to. Or I didn't have my own environment to create. Or I didn't have my own space to be able to ebb and flow. And now I do. So there's a lot of grace and gratitude that comes with that. And like I said, I can choose to either think about the opposite side and soak and kind of have that victim mentality, or I can persevere and be grateful for the space that I have. Be grateful for the things that I have done. There's beauty in those type of things, especially when you are able to come out of an environment that's not so good for you. Keep that in mind. Also, something that I like to do is think about the goals that I have for my future and the upcoming year. And this is something that I've been doing for the past, I'd say 3-4 years. I would write a letter to myself with very specific goals that I have for the next year. I would start it off as a reflection of everything that has happened in the current year, what went well, what didn't go well, what could have been done better. Being very specific about that. And then I start to write down my goals for the next year, what that looks like: physical, spiritual, financial, personal development, career, X, Y, and Z. And that has been the sole inspiration of the Letter to Yourself guide that has been made by me. Because essentially I want to help people be able to reflect and set out those goals, set out measurable goals, set out the outlandish goals that look like dreams, but you can really make it a reality. Because I firsthand am somebody who has poured into my dreams and aspirations, have poured into my goals, and they have become real life. And I'm not joking with you, okay? I'm not joking with you. This 2 years ago, was it? Yes, 2 years ago, I did the whole reflection letter thing, and I made a vision board, and I ended up putting a car that I wanted on there because I was having a lot of car issues at the time, and I was just fed up with the money I had been putting in it, and it was just time. And I put a very specific car on that vision board, a very specific color, a very specific type. And when I tell you, I don't know how I was going to get it, honestly. I didn't know how I was going to get it because I really didn't think I was in the position to, although I was having car trouble, but I knew it was time. Y'all, the second week of January, that car was ordered and being shipped to my nearest dealership. The second week of January. I'm silent because I don't want to get emotional, but it's just like when you don't think there is a way, God will make a way by any means necessary. By any means necessary. And you being able to visualize and see yourself in those spaces of where you're accomplishing your goals, the more you work towards that, the more you visualize that, the quicker it's going to happen. Things will just fall into place. And like anybody would say it's crazy, but you just gotta have faith. You just gotta have faith. Like, for instance, also, I ended up doing the same thing last year, a vision board and a reflection letter. And one of those things was to be more consistent with the podcast and to really roll out my ideas regarding it. And although I haven't gotten everything that I planned for this year, I haven't even like done a scratch, but the thing that I have been working on this year is discipline. And we established a YouTube account. Our numbers are growing. We're looking at different avenues of products and things like that. So there's definitely movement, and it doesn't mean that because I haven't accomplished everything that I put on there that it's not okay, because we're not stagnant, but there's movement. And one of the very first pictures that I put on the top corner, when I tell you, the first picture on the top corner of the vision board, maybe I'll put a picture up so you guys can see it on the side, is a key to a home. Because I told myself that back in the day, not back in the day because it was like 2 years ago, not too much on me, but when I got my first apartment, I told myself that I was either going to get one more apartment and own a property, or I was going to go straight into owning a property, because the space I was in, the rent was enough for me to start saving and being disciplined with my money. And I didn't want to rent forever. That was just something that I decided for myself. So I told myself this year, 2024, is going to be the year that I own a property. So it was one of the first pictures on my vision board. And I became a homeowner March 22nd, 2024. I closed on a property. I just don't have the words. Like, when you really drown out the noise and focus on the goals and aspirations that you have, not the goals and aspirations that people have for you, you really find yourself doing it. You find yourself doing it. Don't get me wrong. It took a lot to even get to that space. It took a lot to even get to the space that I'm in now. I mean, I haven't even fully like decorated and unpacked everything, but I understand that it's a marathon and I'm in my own space and I can ebb and flow how I want to. And just me being able to pay a mortgage with no struggle, no hardship is a blessing. Is a blessing. Because I know there are people who are in the space who are struggling. There are people in the space of paying a rent that are struggling too. Times are hard. Times are very hard. But there's also beauty in those spaces that we're into. There's things that we should be grateful for. There's things that we can be in different type of positions, and that doesn't invalidate the space that you're in now, but there's also things to be grateful for. And don't get me wrong, the apartment that I was in before I moved to my home, I would say, oh my gosh, I want a bigger counter, I want a bigger space to cook, I want this, I want that. I was tired of it, but I was also grateful. And as the time got closer for me to not renew my lease and start to pack things up, it was hard for me to even move out of that space. Like, emotionally, it was hard because that was my first everything. That was where I learned how to fully be responsible on my own. I mean, in undergrad, I was out of state and I pretty much provided for myself. But when you have your first apartment and there's nobody to lean on, to call, to I'm late on rent, or I got this and I got this. It's none of that. None of that. So I took on that responsibility, and I was in that space for 2 years, and I've grown a lot from the person that signed that lease 2 years ago, 3 years ago. A completely different person. The maturity level, the emotional growth, the financial discipline, the overall discipline, the determination, the passion. I can't even begin. Okay. But I can imagine being somebody who doesn't write out their goals or visualize their goals, or just kind of know where they're headed. And even if you don't, make strides to eventually know what you're doing and where you're going. I can't imagine being a person who doesn't plan. I can't imagine being a person who doesn't make to-do lists on a daily basis. I can't imagine being a person who is just not organized when it comes to those things. And there's no shade and no judgment to those people, but I myself cannot imagine being a person like that. And when you start to plan out things and visualize your goals and kind of really have time with yourself and sit with yourself, you gain so much clarity. So much clarity. So much clarity. You are able to see things that you want, the things that you aspire to do, the things you aspire to be, the positions you want your family to be in, things like that. So this is becoming a whole different type of video, you hear me? Video. So let me back it up, okay? So yes, it's important to reflect back on the things that you have and the things that you're grateful for, the goals that you have for the upcoming year, and how you want to keep growing your selected family. What does that look like? What does increasing your social family look like? How do I want to make new friends? How do I want to meet new people? What does networking look like in what spaces? What does solitude look like for you in this season? What does prepping for a new season look like? How can you put yourself in a position to have solitude, to have one-on-one time with God, to have one-on-one time with you, with the universe, however you may choose. No judgment. And how does healing look like for you in this season? What does that look like? Does it look like you starting a routine of journaling? Does it look like you picking up a hobby? Does it look like you listening to worship music on your way to work? Does it look like you making a habit of praying every day? Does it look like you making it your duty to go on a walk on a daily basis outside, to have time for yourself? Does it look like you having that hard conversation with somebody? Tell me. If you're still here and you're still listening, leave a comment in the comments. And if you're listening on audio, leave a comment on the Instagram post. What does healing look like for you in this season? Because I want to know. And what are some things that you're proud of yourself for? Like, what did you do this year that you're proud of? What did you do this week that you're proud of? What did you do this month that you're proud of? And it doesn't have to be this big, grand old scheme, like accomplishment. It could be you waking up today. You being consistent with your job. You being financially disciplined. You being able to make breakfast in the morning. You getting that work from home job. You getting a car. You being able to pay for a bus, like it can be something. What are you proud of? Being able to sit with yourself and think about those things. And how are you going to continue to learn? How are you going to continue to be a student? Because once we think that we are the master of everything or have the ultimate knowledge of everything and anything in this world, that's where we fail ourselves. Simple. Simple. The moment that we think we know everything and anything you can ever imagine in this universe, in this world, is where we fool ourselves. The only one who knows everything and everything is the one person that you call your higher power, God, whoever. Okay? Okay. So, it's also important to think about what and who are the things that inspire you to do better. Is it somebody from work? Is it a family member? Is it a friend? Is it a YouTube video that you watch, YouTube content creator that you watch? Is it a podcaster that you listen to? Is it a book that you've been reading that's been encouraging you to make some changes in your life? What is it? How can we pour more into that to receive that type of motivation and receive that type of inspiration in our life? Being able to identify that is the first step. Also, how are you going to become consistent with your routines? And when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to me. Please know that, because this is something that I have been needing to nip in the bud for a long time for myself. Being able to be consistent with routine. What does discipline look like? How can I get myself to be more disciplined with those routines? That's definitely something to think about and for you to reflect on. And what distractions need to be removed in order to do that? Like, are you waking up and going on your phone first thing in the morning and that makes you late for work? Are you not getting up early enough to go to the gym? Are you not getting enough sleep because you're going to bed late? Like, what is it? What is it? And remove it. Go take it out. Because we're going into 2025, a new version of ourselves. A version of ourselves that we've always aspired to be. And there's no excuses for that. No excuses for that. And the last thing I encourage you to reflect on is how can you let go and let God in this season? How can you let go and let God? How can you let go and let your universe? How can you let go? How can you just let go? How can you let go? There has been enough things in our life that cause us stress on a day-to-day basis. I'm speaking from experience, honey. There's enough that causes us stress on a day-to-day basis. So how can we let go of those little things and big things to make space for us? Those are some things to think about during this holiday season and to just give yourself grace. We see you, we hear you, we love you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. We will be coming back with another one very, very soon. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Go check out our website where we have mental health stickers, PDF guides, and products. More to come soon. And if you're not all caught up on our videos and our episodes, please go check them out. Okay? Seize the day and don't let the day seize you. And I'm giving you grace and love this holiday season. See you next time.